You know when your body sends you those confusing signals? A little fatigue here, a strange ache there. It can feel like you're trying to solve a puzzle with 1,000 scattered pieces. But what if there was an ancient art of diagnosis that wasn't about collecting all the pieces, but about finding that one single decisive clue that reveals the entire picture? So that's what we're diving into. First, we're going to learn to see clues in a totally new way. Then, we'll get into what a unique sign actually is and how it's different from what you might expect. We'll see it in action with some really fascinating examples, understand the system it's part of, and then wrap up with the profound power of one. All right, part one, a different kind of clue. Before we get into the how, we really need to understand the why. This whole method isn't just a technique, it's a fundamental shift in perception. It's about learning a completely different way of seeing the body. This line from the source material, man, it just nails it. Where everyone looks, one sees uniquely. Just think about that for a second. It's not about ignoring what's obvious, but it's about training your eyes, your perception, to find that one signal that just shines through all the noise. That single point of brilliant clarity in what otherwise looks like a really murky picture.
Okay, part two, grasping the unique sign. So what is this powerful method of seeing uniquely? Let's actually put a name to it and break down exactly what we're talking about here.
The method is called joie du fa, and at its heart, it's all about finding that one special clue that tells the whole story. The guiding principle is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. If you see this one sign, that is enough. So forget the long laundry list of symptoms. The real goal here is to find the one that matters most.
I absolutely love this analogy because it just makes so much sense. Think about a detective at a crime scene. Yeah, they could spend weeks collecting tons of circumstantial evidence, or they could find that one single, unique fingerprint that identifies the culprit beyond any doubt. That fingerprint, that is the unique sign. This method is all about finding where the real problem, the so-called culprit, is hiding out.
So part three, unique sign versus main syndrome. To really appreciate just how different this is, it really helps to see what it's not. So let's compare this unique sign approach to a more common way of doing things. So you can see the two approaches right here, side by side. On the one hand, you have the main syndrome approach. It's kind of additive. You're building a case by collecting common stuff like fatigue and a weak pulse to point to a pretty general diagnosis. But the unique sign approach, it's totally different. It's almost subtractive. It's about recognizing one specific, often kind of weird symptom that acts like a key, unlocking the entire puzzle all in one go. Okay, section 4, signs in action. Now, this might still feel a little bit abstract, so let's make it super concrete. We're going to look at a couple of brilliant examples from the source text that show exactly how this works in the real world. All right, first example. What if a person coughs and every time they do, they experience urinary incontinence? Now, in a conventional way of thinking, you'd probably treat those as two separate issues, right? You've got a respiratory problem and a bladder problem. They seem totally unrelated.
But in this system of seeing, nope, that combination isn't two separate problems at all. It is one single, powerful, unique sign. It's the fingerprint we were talking about before, the one clue that cracks the whole case wide open.
So how does this one sign tell a complete story? Well, the cough increases pressure inside the body. The incontinence reveals that the bladder sphincter just isn't strong enough to handle that pressure. And why not? Well, this system points to a deficiency in the body's fundamental energy, what's often called qi, which is in charge of muscle control. So that one unique sign, the coughing and leaking, it doesn't just point to two problems. It points to a single root cause connecting everything, a weakened system.
And what's truly amazing is when you see these ancient observations just perfectly map onto modern science. For our next example, let's take a look at jaundice.
This table is just fascinating. For centuries, practitioners noticed two distinct types of jaundice. As you can see in that first row, some patients had a slow pulse and a white tongue. Those were their unique signs. Others, in the second row, they had a rapid pulse and a yellow tongue. Now, they didn't know why, but they knew these signs were different. So, fast forward to today, and we know there are different types of jaundice measured by something called bilirubin. And would you look at that stunning correlation? The ancient wet dominant signs correspond almost perfectly with high direct bilirubin, and the heat dominant signs line up with high indirect bilirubin. It is an absolutely incredible bridge between ancient observation and modern data. All right, Section 5, a system of seeing. So this method of grasping the unique, it isn't just a collection of clever diagnostic tricks, not at all. It's actually part of a much larger, really comprehensive system for understanding how the body works and how illness unfolds over a whole lifetime. This whole system is built on a few core principles. A key one is the 6 meridians, which you can think of it like a map that shows the predictable pathways an illness can take as it moves through the body. Another big principle is treat the manifestation, which is the idea that by targeting the most obvious, unique sign, you can often fix the hidden root cause. It all just comes back to a holistic view, that one unique sign can reveal the state of the entire system.
Now, what's really interesting is how this system maps the progression of illness onto the stages of life itself. The source text suggests that in our youth, we're more prone to acute external illnesses, like colds and flus, and those correspond to the early meridian phases. As we move through adulthood, illnesses tend to go a little deeper. They become more systemic. And then finally, in old age, conditions often become chronic and degenerative, which aligns perfectly with the final phases on this map. It's a framework for predicting what kinds of unique signs are most likely to show up at different times in our lives.
And that brings us to Section 6, the power of one. So after all this, why does this ancient method matter today, in our modern world? What's the ultimate takeaway here? Ultimately, the power of this approach is that it teaches us to think differently. We live in an age of just overwhelming data, endless lab results, symptom checkers, health trackers, you name it. This ancient art is a reminder of the profound value of recognizing a pattern over just collecting more data. It's about cultivating the perception to spot that single decisive clue that tells the whole story, the one thing that everyone else who's buried in data might just overlook. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. Think about it for a second. Think about those small, persistent, maybe even strange symptoms that are unique to you, the little quirks of your own body. In our modern quest for answers, what crucial, unique signs might we be overlooking in our own health that could tell us the whole story, if only we knew how to see them?